It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. Machiavelli's words cut through centuries because they expose a truth most men try to hide. Weakness is contagious. You see it when someone folds under pressure in the workplace, when a man avoids confrontation in public, when he backs down not out of wisdom but out of fear. In that moment, his weakness does not stay contained. It spreads. Cowardice is like a disease. It infects teams, families, and entire nations when it is tolerated. One man's hesitation becomes another man's excuse until the air itself grows heavy with permission to shrink. The invisible threat of weak men is that they appear harmless. You mistake their quiet compliance for virtue. You assume they are safe allies. But weakness never protects, it only postpones collapse. History shows that rulers who surrounded themselves with weak advisors were not cushioned, they were sabotaged. A general with cowardly soldiers is defeated before the battle begins. A leader who cannot see through this disguise will suffer the same fate. You must learn to identify weakness quickly, or you will kneel beside it when the enemy strikes. Look around in modern life. You see the pattern every day. A man laughs along when disrespected, hoping not to seem difficult. Another avoids hard conversations with his partner, surrendering his authority piece by piece. Someone fails to set boundaries at work, and soon his time is no longer his own. These are not minor slips, they are clear banners of surrender. Weakness reveals itself in small concessions that snowball into chains. If you cannot see these flags, you will follow them off the cliff. Spotting weakness is not cruelty. It is survival. Do not mistake silence for weakness. Do not mistake politeness for strength. Watch carefully. Weak. It doesn't matter. I'll just let it go. Strong. That's not acceptable. Let's correct it now. Weak. Maybe they're right. I shouldn't speak up. Strong. I see it differently, and here's why. Weak. I'll deal with it later. Strong. It ends here. Words reveal the throne of the mind, and every careless phrase tells you whether the man before you has already abdicated. Imagine a disagreement at work. The weak man grows defensive, speaking faster, making excuses, shifting blame. A strong man slows the pace, holds eye contact, and states his boundary with calm precision. No raised voice, no frantic gestures, only the authority of someone who will not kneel. This is how you identify weakness, not in the obvious defeat, but in the subtle unraveling under pressure. You must train your perception like a hawk. Do not wait until a crisis exposes weakness. Learn to see it in the daily choices. Listen for the excuses. Watch for the hesitation. Measure the strength of silence. Weak men may hide in the crowd, but their disease cannot be hidden forever. Spot it early, and you will stand sovereign. Fail, and you will inherit their chains. Spot weakness, or be ruled by it. A man who is ruled by fear is already dethroned, because the throne of the mind is the first fortress to fall. Once that seat is surrendered, no outer battle can ever be won. Weak men lose not because they lack opportunity or resources, but because they abandon command of perception. The crown slips before a sword is ever drawn. Fear occupies the throne, whispering hesitation into every decision, and what begins as a private tremor becomes a public collapse. You must see clearly, the man who cannot master his own thoughts is already conquered. History proves this repeatedly. Rulers who commanded armies first commanded themselves. Discipline was forged long before the battlefield. Roman generals trained their minds to endure hardship before asking soldiers to do the same. Stoic thinkers spoke of ruling the passions as the highest power, because chaos within guarantees defeat without. The strongest walls are not of stone but of perception, an iron discipline that does not crack when storms arrive. When leaders neglected this internal fortress, their empires crumbled quickly. The lesson is plain. Mastery of the mind is the first condition of sovereignty. Weak men reveal themselves when they bow to gossip, shallow praise, or fleeting trends. They let the crowd dictate their posture, their choices, their sense of worth. A single negative comment sends them spiraling. A small burst of applause makes them arrogant. They live as pawns on the chessboard of opinion, moving only when pushed. This surrender of perception is the surest signal of weakness. You cannot trust such a man with responsibility, because his throne does not belong to him. It belongs to the last voice he heard. You must train your perception to recognize this collapse. Watch carefully when a man receives criticism. The weak man reacts defensively, his face tightening, his tone rising, his crown slipping in the heat of insecurity. The strong man remains composed, weighs the words, and decides calmly whether to accept or reject them. The battlefield is the same, but one stands sovereign while the other kneels to the moment. That single difference reveals whether the throne of the mind is intact. Guard your own fortress relentlessly. Do not let fear occupy the crown. Do not let gossip steal your command. Stand in the storm and hold perception steady. Control your mind first, and you will control the field. Lose it, and nothing else can be saved. The throne of the mind decides every battle. The morning is the battlefield where victory or defeat is decided long before the day unfolds. Weak men lose this battle before it begins. They wake to noise, roll into distraction, and surrender their first hour to chaos. Their phone becomes the commander, pulling them into arguments, news and gossip before their mind has even drawn a sword. When the first light rises, the truth is revealed: ritual or ruin, order or slavery. The man who cannot master his dawn cannot master his throne. History shows that the strongest leaders guarded their mornings as sacred ground. Military commanders often rose before their soldiers, setting tone and discipline before giving orders. Philosophers wrote at first light, knowing the mind is sharpest when the world is still. Early hours were never treated casually. They were rituals of sovereignty, proof that control began within. To a strategist, morning was not leisure. It was a fortress of preparation, a place to strengthen perception before stepping into the day's war. When rulers neglected this ground, they drifted into complacency, and complacency is the seed of collapse. You can see weakness clearly in how a man treats his first hour. If he begins with confusion, the rest of the day will follow the same pattern. Weak: I'll just check my phone for a minute. Strong: the phone stays off until my command is complete. Weak: I don't feel like moving today. Strong: movement comes first, feelings follow later. Weak: I'll start after coffee, after scrolling, after delay. Strong: I start now because dawn is mine. These small choices are not small at all. They reveal who rules the day and who kneels before it. Imagine a colleague who constantly arrives flustered, already drained before noon. His mornings were surrendered to noise, and now his weakness ripples into the team. Contrast this with a leader who enters calm, composed and steady, because his morning ritual forged that state. The difference is not talent, not luck, but command of the battlefield at dawn. One man drags disorder into the room. The other carries the authority of preparation. The crowd may not name it, but everyone feels it. Command radiates from the one who owned his morning. Guard your first hour as if it were a throne room under siege. Eliminate distraction. Establish ritual, begin with order, and carry that order into every move that follows. The man who rules dawn rules the day. The man who wastes it becomes a servant before the sun is high. Seize the morning, and the day kneels before you. Weak men cannot endure stillness. Their fidgeting, Their constant need to fill silence exposes them. They talk to shield themselves, not to command. Noise becomes a mask, a desperate attempt to cover the cracks of insecurity. But every word without weight is a signal of weakness. You see it in meetings when someone rambles, drowning the room in empty phrases. You hear it in conversations when a man cannot pause, cannot let silence test the strength of his presence. Noise is his armor, but it is fragile, and the more he speaks, the more it breaks. Predators know better. Lions wait. Eagles circle. Generals watch the field without rushing a move. Strength is measured in patience, the ability to let silence sharpen the blade. History reminds us that great leaders often mastered pause as much as action. They listened while others wasted words. They let opponents reveal themselves through nervous chatter. Stillness became a weapon, disarming enemies before any sword was drawn. The one who could wait, the one who could hold silence without fear, always commanded the field. Waiting is not a weakness. Waiting is calculation. The unnerved pawn cannot bear this test. Place him in a room of silence and watch. His hands move restlessly. His voice fills the space. His mind cannot handle the tension because he does not rule himself. Sovereignty is measured in how you hold the empty spaces. Weak. I need to say anything so they don't think I'm lost. Strong. I say nothing until my words land with precision. Weak. I'll rush to answer immediately. Strong. I pause, I think, I strike when ready. The pawn reveals his chains in impatience. The commander reveals his throne in stillness. Picture a disagreement at the table. The weak man interrupts quickly, stacking words in panic, afraid silence will condemn him. The strong man listens, lets the air settle, then responds with calm authority, no raised tone, no frantic movement, just clarity, sharpened by patience. At that moment, the dispute was already decided. The room recognizes who rules the silence. Command does not require volume. It requires presence. Stillness is not passive. It is the predator's coil before the strike. Train yourself to weaponize silence. Do not rush to fill the air. Let others betray their weakness while you conserve strength. Breathe, wait, watch. Speak less, and when you do, speak with force. Endure the tension until it bends to you. Weak men break under stillness, but strong men bend others with it. Silence is the roar of the sovereign. Weak men cannot cut. They tolerate. They excuse. They delay, and in doing so they reveal the soft edge that betrays them. Boundaries are the blade of sovereignty, but weakness hides in the refusal to draw it. You see it when a man endures constant disrespect and calls it patience. You see it when he allows draining habits to consume him because the effort of change feels too sharp. Tolerance of the intolerable does not make him noble, it makes him vulnerable. The inability to eliminate poisons is the clearest mark of weakness. Machiavelli warned that princes who failed to purge their enemies lost everything. A ruler could not afford half measures. The foe left standing today becomes the assassin tomorrow. History records the collapse of leaders who tried to appease their rivals, hoping goodwill would secure peace. What they earned instead was betrayal. The lesson is timeless. Survival belongs to those willing to eliminate threats decisively. Ruthlessness here is not cruelty, but clarity. To protect the throne, you must see needy for what they are and cut them before they grow into ruin. The hesitant hand cannot do this. Watch carefully. A man who cannot say no when his time is stolen will always kneel. A man who hesitates to remove toxic companies will always serve them. A man who cannot break with destructive habits will forever wear chains he forged himself. Weak. Maybe it will fix itself if I wait. Strong. I act now because waiting multiplies the danger. Weak. I don't want to upset them. Strong. I will not allow disrespect to live in my court. Weak. I'll try to cut back slowly. Strong. I cut it clean because half measures are surrender. The hand that trembles at elimination is the hand that will never hold command. Picture a conversation with someone who crosses your boundary. The weak man laughs nervously, avoids the moment, and lets the disrespect pass. The strong man holds steady eye contact and says calmly, "That won't happen again." No aggression. No chaos, just the blade of clarity, sharp and undeniable. In that instant, the line is drawn, and the room knows who rules. Leadership is not loud. It is decisive. The world bends to those who enforce boundaries with precision. You must sharpen your blade daily. Eliminate habits that weaken you. Remove voices that drain you. Cut ties that dishonor you. Refuse the soft edge that tolerates poison. Strength is not seen in what you accept, but in what you cut away. Weak men hesitate until they kneel. Strong men eliminate until they stand sovereign. The blade of boundaries is the crown of kings. Power is never only about what you hold inside. It is about what you project. Weak men crumble under the weight of appearances because their mask cannot carry stress. In the heat of challenge, their posture folds, their tone quivers, their eyes dart away, the mask cracks, and the truth spills out. They lack sovereignty. You can see it in a handshake that lingers too soft, in a voice that falters mid-sentence, in the restless shifting of a man trying to appear confident while drowning in doubt. The mask of command is not a costume. It is the visible crown of presence, and when it collapses, the man beneath it is exposed. Throughout history, leaders understood this theater. Generals wore armor not only for protection, but for image. Kings performed rituals of dress and ceremony to remind others of their stature. Even Machiavelli observed that appearance was part of strategy. A ruler could not afford to look weak, even if he felt it privately. Commanders carried themselves as if invincible because perception shapes loyalty. Soldiers fight harder when they believe their leader cannot be shaken. Appearances, when aligned with discipline, become instruments of power. But when weak men try to wear the same mask without the foundation, the weight crushes them. The slave of opinion cannot sustain the mask. He depends on applause to validate him, shifting with every breeze of approval. One day bold, the next day timid. His command is borrowed from the crowd. Watch carefully. Weak. Do they like me? Strong. Did I uphold my standard? Weak. I'll adjust so they approve. Strong. I hold my line, respect follows, or it does not. Weak. If I lose their praise, I lose myself. Strong. If I keep my sovereignty, I lose nothing. The weak man lives as a mirror, reflecting others instead of projecting command. That is not strength. It is servitude. Picture a tense meeting. A weak man, challenged directly, grows defensive, his face tight, his tone rushed. He serves the moment instead of commanding it. The strong man does not flinch. He pauses, holds posture, and answers with measured clarity. The room feels the difference. One is ruled by pressure, the other rules despite it. The mask of command holds firm only when the man beneath it has forged iron discipline. Image without substance collapses. Image aligned with strength commands effortlessly. Guard your own mask. Do not let stress crack it. Train posture, voice and gaze until they reflect sovereignty even under fire. Respect rituals that anchor perception, but never let them drift into dependence on applause. Command is not a costume you put on for others. It is the throne you project through every gesture. Weak men wear masks that shatter. Strong men wear masks that rule. Appear strong, and strength becomes reality. True strength is measured not in talk but in execution. Weak men stumble at the edge of decision, their hands trembling when clarity demands action. Every delay is a tax they pay in lost respect, lost opportunity, and lost sovereignty. Hesitation is weakness exposed. You see it when a man avoids delivering hard truth, when he postpones ending what he knows should end, when he lets chance decide because he cannot. The battlefield does not wait for the hesitant. It devours them. Inaction is not neutral. It is defeat delivered slowly. History bows to the ruthless few who acted without trembling. Generals who seized the initiative bent wars to their will. Leaders who moved decisively reshaped nations. Machiavelli noted that it is better to be impetuous than cautious, because fortune favors those who strike boldly. The lesson is not recklessness, but clarity. The man who waits for perfect certainty waits forever. The man who acts with conviction, even through risk, carves space for sovereignty. Cold execution is the mark of command. Ruthlessness here does not mean cruelty. It means cutting through hesitation with the sharp edge of resolve. The fearful servant reveals himself in private hesitation. Alone with decisions, he bends under their weight. He tells himself he will act tomorrow, or once conditions improve, or once he feels ready. But readiness never arrives. The hand that trembles unseen in private cannot reject command in public. Weak. I'll wait until the timing is better. Strong. I decide now and create the timing. Weak. What if I fail? Strong. I will fail only if I kneel to doubt. Weak. I need more approval. Strong. My standard is enough. The ruler of himself does not beg for perfect conditions. He makes conditions bow to him. Picture a moment of disagreement at work. A weak man defers endlessly, saying, "Let's revisit this later," trying to escape the discomfort of decision. The strong man listens, weighs, then says with calm finality, "Here's the direction we're taking." No aggression, no wasted words, just clarity that ends debate. The room follows the man who executes. Hesitation creates a vacuum, and vacuums invite disorder. Decisiveness closes the gap, establishing order before doubt spreads. The assassin within is not about violence, it is about precision, cutting away delay so command remains intact. Train yourself to act with cold resolve. Eliminate the habit of postponement. Confront the truth directly. End what must be ended without apology. Weak men pay the hesitation tax until nothing is left of them. Strong men rule through execution, not excuses. Hesitation is defeat. Execution is sovereignty. Discipline is the food of power, and weak men starve their inner wolf until it dies. They feed distraction instead. They feed indulgence, laziness, and excuses. Each wasted hour, each mindless scroll, each unguarded appetite is a meal stolen from the predator within. The wolf of discipline, when starved, turns frail. And once it collapses, so does the throne. Weakness is not born in sudden defeat. It grows slowly in daily neglect. You can see it in the man who cannot rise when he should, who cannot resist what he knows destroys him, who cannot hold the line against himself. That man has already surrendered. Strong men across history treated discipline like sustenance. Warriors trained not only their bodies, but their appetites, shaping hunger itself into a weapon. The Spartans ate little, slept hard, and drilled endlessly to sharpen endurance. Samurai practiced ritual discipline in every act, from sword to silence. Monks imposed strict codes to strengthen spirit beyond flesh. These were not restrictions, but fuel. Each act of control fed the wolf, made it sharper, hungrier, more lethal. When battle came, discipline was the hidden armor that never cracked. Those who fed the wolf with consistency rose untouchable. Those who indulged without restraint rotted from within. The fat slave is easy to spot. He indulges first, postpones strength for later, and believes comfort is reward rather than poison. His throne has already been stolen because he serves his appetites like a servant serves a master. Weak. I've earned this comfort. Strong. Comfort weakens me. I earn discipline. Weak. Just this once won't matter. Strong. Every choice builds the throne or burns it. Weak. I'll change when I feel ready. Strong. I feed discipline daily. Readiness is irrelevant. You do not need prophecy to see his fate. A man who bows to indulgence is already conquered, even if no one has struck him yet. Imagine watching two men face the same test. One turns away from distraction, channels his energy, and carries a sharp presence into the room. The other arrives scattered, bloated by indulgence, and his weakness bleeds through every move. No words are needed. One is feared, one is dismissed. Discipline writes its mark on a man's face, his posture, his aura. Others sense instantly whether the wolf is alive or whether it has been starved into submission. Power respects only the one who has fed it. Feed the wolf within you. Guard what enters your body, your mind, your hours. Refuse indulgence that makes you soft. Refuse distraction that dulls the edge. Discipline is not punishment. It is sustenance. Every act of restraint feeds the predator. Every act of indulgence feeds your chains. Weak men starve the wolf until they kneel. Strong men feed it until they rule. Discipline is the meal of kings. Life is a chessboard, and every move exposes strength or weakness. Weak men see only the piece in front of them. They rush toward short-term gain, blind to the trap waiting 2 moves away. Their vision is narrow, their calculation shallow, and their impatience betrays them. The pawn's vision is the curse of weakness, acting without foresight, celebrating tiny advances while sacrificing the game. You see it when a man trades his dignity for quick approval, when he spends energy on gossip while neglecting strategy, when he lunges at the immediate without considering the cost. Each careless move writes his defeat in advance. Strong leaders throughout history understood the necessity of thinking beyond the present. Generals mapped not only the battle before them, but the campaign ahead. They prepared contingencies, studied the field, and acted as if already positioned 3 steps into the future. Machiavelli himself emphasized that rulers must anticipate fortune, adapting with strategy rather than chasing chance. This is why commanders who mastered foresight often prevailed over those with greater numbers. But smaller vision, the ability to see the board in full, to predict the chain of consequence, separates rulers from pawns. Patience, calculation, and awareness are not luxuries. They are surviving. The checkmate of weakness always comes from impatience. A man who cannot wait exposes his throne. He lunges, he compromises, he shows his hunger, and in that instant, the opponent sees everything. Weak. I need it now, no matter the cost. Strong. I wait until the strike ensures victory. Weak. I'll grab what I can get today. Strong. I sacrifice today to secure the kingdom tomorrow. Weak. This one move will prove me. Strong. This one move is nothing. The game is everything. Impatience is the noose the weak man ties for himself. Discipline is the sword the strong man wields with timing. Imagine 2 men negotiating. One grows desperate, accepting any terms just to secure quick closure. The other waits calmly, letting silence and time pressure the opponent until the better outcome arrives. The impatient man believes speed proves strength. The disciplined man knows patience is control. In the end, the room bends toward the one who sees the entire board. Command does not belong to the hurried. It belongs to the strategy. Weakness plays checkers, strength plays chess. Train yourself to expand vision. See beyond the single move. Pause before acting. Ask where this decision leads. 5 steps later, guard against the pawn's hunger for immediacy and cultivate the general's patience for strategy. Weak men reveal themselves through rash moves. Strong men prove themselves through calculated command. See the whole board or lose your throne. Weak men collapse because they lack ritual. Their habits are rusted armor, cracked at the first strike. They start routines and abandon them within days. They promise discipline but fold when repetition demands endurance. The weakness shows not in one dramatic failure, but in the quiet decay of consistency. You see it when a man begins a practice with fire but lets it fade to ash. His broken habits reveal that his will cannot hold. Without ritual, the throne is unguarded, and the enemy walks in unopposed. History is clear on this point. Spartans forged strength through relentless drills, repeating the same movements until endurance became identity. Samurai lived by codes that dictated not just how they fought, but how they ate, walked, and spoke, binding every action to discipline. Monks across centuries turned ritual into power, structuring every hour so the will never rotted from neglect. These were not casual routines, they were iron will rituals, daily coronations that reminded the individual of sovereignty over self. The power of such ritual was not in grand gestures, but in repetition that hardened resolve into unbreakable armor. The man who rules himself daily wears an invisible crown. Every time he repeats discipline without fail, he adds weight to his authority. He does not wait for motivation or inspiration. He relies on ritual, knowing that repetition builds the throne brick by brick. Weak, I'll do it when I feel like it. Strong, I do it because it is time. Weak, I missed one day so it's over. Strong, I return immediately. The crown is guarded. Weak, this habit doesn't matter. Strong, every habit sharpens or dulls my blade. Sovereignty is not declared once. It is renewed daily through ritual. Picture 2 men in the same environment. One drifts, his days unmarked by discipline, collapsing into distraction. The other repeats his rituals without excuse, building endurance silently. The difference grows invisible at first, but undeniable over time. The drifting man becomes weaker with each lapse. The disciplined man radiates command with each repetition. When stress arrives, one breaks because his armor was rusted. The other stands because his armor was reforged daily. Ritual is not routine for its own sake. It is the daily coronation of the sovereign over himself. Forge your rituals as iron will. Defend them as if they were the walls of your fortress. Do not let weakness break the chain. Every repetition feeds your authority. Every lapse weakens it. Weak men treat ritual as optional. Strong men treat ritual as survival. Build your throne each day until your will is untouchable. Ritual is the crown you wear in silence. Weak men cannot command a room because their very presence betrays them. The shaking hand, the restless eyes, the unsteady voice, each one signals fragility before they ever speak. Presence is the battlefield where sovereignty is decided without swords. You know it when you feel it. The man who enters and instantly shrinks, compared to the one who enters and silently draws attention without asking. Weakness radiates as insecurity, and insecurity poisons authority. Strong presence is not volume or aggression. It is the silent weight of someone who knows he cannot be moved. History shows that the greatest leaders were feared not simply for their armies, but for their aura. Julius Caesar commanded loyalty because men believed in his invincibility long before the battle began. Alexander carried charisma that inspired soldiers to follow him across continents. Even Machiavelli observed that the image of strength is often as critical as strength itself. These figures were untouchable because they radiated certainty. They built an atmosphere around themselves that made resistance unthinkable. To stand near them was to feel their sovereignty. Weak men, by contrast, collapse under the gaze of others. They lose their crown in the silence of attention. The ghostly king is the man who becomes a living myth. His untouchability is not just what he does, but what others believe about him. His calm presence whispers power without words. He does not need to defend himself loudly because the room already knows he is beyond reach. Weak. Notice me, I deserve respect. Strong. Respect comes unspoken. My aura commands it. Weak. I hope I fit in. Strong. I carry my own court into every room. Weak. Please accept me. Strong. Acceptance is irrelevant. I am already sovereign. The untouchable man does not chase recognition. Recognition bends toward him. Picture a moment of conflict. A weak man tries to argue his way into control, raising his voice, scrambling for approval. A strong man listens, remains composed, and answers with minimal words. The difference is undeniable. The crowd feels his command because it is not begged. It is embodied. Sovereignty requires no frantic effort. It is the calm, steady projection of a man who refuses to be rattled. Presence is not decoration. It is armor, throne, and weapon in one. Train yourself to rule with presence. Guard your posture, your tone, your eyes. Enter rooms with stillness, not noise. Speak less, and when you do, let every word land like a strike. Do not chase respect. Radiate sovereignty until it comes uninvited. Weak men reveal their fragility in trembling gestures. Strong men radiate untouchability without effort. Presence is the crown that cannot be stolen. Weakness is exposed when the final hunt begins. By now, every principle has sharpened into a single blade. The throne of mind, the battlefield of dawn, the silence of predators, the blade of boundaries, the mask of command, the assassin's cold hand, the wolf of discipline, the chessboard vision, and the rituals of iron will. Each one is a weapon. Alone they wound, but together they converge into sovereignty. The weak man collapses under this convergence. The sovereign man becomes untouchable because he has forged every element into one. What began as fragments of practice now fuses into cold clarity, a single force of command that cannot be broken. History has shown again and again that strength is not one weapon but many, united under one will. Generals who mastered only battle tactics but neglected discipline fell to disorder. Leaders who commanded presence but failed to guard boundaries were undone by betrayal. The ones who endured were those who drew every weapon together and wielded them with ruthless precision. They trained perception as fortress, mornings as battlefield, silence as weapon, and rituals as armor. When the storm came, they did not scatter, they converged, striking as one. This is the meaning of the final hunt, to gather all your weapons into one act of sovereignty, to fuse thought, presence, and execution into command. The throne or the chains, that is the choice revealed at the end. Spot weakness early, or you will share its chains. You see this daily in modern life. A man builds habits of discipline, but fails to enforce boundaries, and so others consume his time. Another develops presence, but lacks patience, and his rash moves undo him. Weakness in one corner infects the whole board. The man who ignores this collapse becomes chained alongside the weak. Weak, I've mastered enough, the rest doesn't matter. Strong, every piece must be aligned, because the enemy will strike where I am careless. Weak, this one flaw won't break me. Strong, one flaw is enough to collapse the throne. The hunt exposes all, and only the sovereign survives it. The immortal archetype rises here. The untouchable man is not flesh alone, but a presence elevated to myth. He is the one who radiates discipline, silence, foresight, and clarity all at once. He carries himself as predator, king, and general fused. To stand in his presence is to feel the weight of convergence. He does not boast of his strength. He embodies it so fully that others sense it without proof. He has become more than individual. He has become an archetype, an image of what men fear and respect simultaneously. His command stretches beyond words. His presence lingers after he leaves the room, as if the throne itself walked beside him. Imagine a confrontation. The weak man trembles, relying on noise to defend himself, grasping for approval, collapsing into excuses. The sovereign man holds silence, draws boundaries, and delivers his stance with cold precision. The difference is not small, it is final. One is erased, the other becomes untouchable. This is the convergence in action. When all weapons are drawn, no weakness remains. The sovereign's enemies hesitate to even test him, because they already sense defeat. He does not need to prove himself. His sovereignty is proven by the very absence of cracks in his armor. You must decide here. Gather every weapon. Rule perception. Command dawn. Hold silence. Cut with boundaries. Guard ritual. Feed the wolf. See the board. Strike cold. Project untouchability. Do not leave one principle neglected, for the neglected piece is the doorway of defeat. Weak men collapse when the hunt converges. Strong men rise, transcending beyond rivalry. They become untouchable. They become myths. Converge all power, and you rise sovereign. Weakness is a chain, and if you fail to see it, you will drown in it. The man who ignores signs of fragility in himself or in others is not spared from the cost. He inherited it. He carries the burden of broken habits, cracked boundaries, and trembling decisions until his throne collapses beneath him. Modern life is filled with these traps. Endless distraction, shallow approval, indulgence, dressed as reward. Each one is a chain waiting to be fastened. If you do not identify weakness early, you are already kneeling beside it. The final warning is clear. Weakness tolerated is weakness shared, but the final reward is just as clear. With mastery, you are untouchable in any room. History shows us that men who ruled themselves first became impossible to rule. Their presence outweighed armies. Their discipline shaped nations. Their command silenced opposition before words were even spoken. This is not a myth. It is the result of iron will. When you sit firmly upon the throne of self, no insult can shake you, no chaos can unseat you, no enemy can dominate you. You radiate sovereignty, not by noise, but by consistency, not by demand, but by proof. Others feel it the moment you enter. This is someone who cannot be moved. Now the marching orders, the throne or the pawn, the crown or the chain. There is no neutral ground. Every day you either sharpen the sword of mastery, or you polish the chains of weakness. Every choice declares your allegiance. Weak, I'll let it slide. Strong, it ends here. Weak, I'll wait until tomorrow. Strong, I act now. Weak, I hope others respect me. Strong, I rule myself, and respect follows. You must decide whether to remain a pawn of indulgence and hesitation, or to ascend the throne of discipline and clarity. The choice is not someday, it is today. In every act, in every word, in every moment you either kneel or rise. This is the call to sovereignty. Rule perception, rule ritual, rule silence, rule boundaries, rule execution, rule presence. Every principle converges into one command: rule yourself, or you will be ruled. Weak men vanish because they never seize the throne within. Strong men endure because they claim it daily. The path is cold, demanding and merciless, but it is also liberating. The crown is invisible, but its weight is real. Wear it with discipline, or surrender it forever. Rule yourself, and no one can rule you.